Life and faith, the two are intimately connected. For more than 2 decades, Life and Faith Television has painted pictures and told stories of faith journeys here in southwestern Ontario. Join us now as we continue the tradition. We explore the diversity in our lives of faith and the faith of our lives.
Good morning. Welcome to Life and Faith and our first news show for 2012. We start off the new year with a segment from a dinner at Huron College, honoring the new chair of London and Windsor Community in Islamic Studies. Then it's off to Windsor to hear about a living nativity reenactment. And finally, it's back to St. Peter's Cathedral in London to witness the ordination to the permanent diaconate for several deacons. Huron College at the University of Western Ontario recently introduced Ingrid Mattson as the London and Windsor Community Chair in Islamic Studies. A dinner was held in her honor, and Faisal Joseph from Life and Faith sat down with Ingrid and with Dr. Stephen McClatchie, the Principal of Huron College, to discuss her new role.
Stephen, Ingrid, it is an honor and a pleasure to have you on Life and Faith today. We've got a lot to talk about, but before we do, Stephen, could you tell us a little bit about how the Chair of Islamic Studies came about at Huron College University?
Glad to do that. As many of these things start, it was simply a conversation in an office between our Dean of Theology, a faculty member teaching comparative religions, and Dr. Wael Hadara from the community, and they just got brainstorming about what a good thing it would be to establish a chair in Islamic Studies here at Huron. It connects back with our long history of ecumenical dialogue, reaching back into the 1960s with former Principal Morden taking classes to visit the London Mosque, and it's just grown since then.
That's important for our viewers to know about because interfaith dialogue at Huron College University wasn't the political flavor of the month like recently in some organizations. This is something that went back half a century with Dr. Morden. Can you tell us a little bit about his involvement and the importance of that type of dialogue within the community over 50 years ago?
Certainly can, but in fact that kind of dialogue stretches back to the 19th century when one of the first professors here was a rabbi. And so we've always had those connections outside of the Anglican faith tradition in which we're based. But as I understand it, Principal Morden taught a world religions course. It was a very popular course. In fact, it was a required course of all Huron students. And one of the things that he thought it was very important to do was to get our students, most at the time, I would say, I would venture 90, 95, 98% would have come from the Christian community, if not the Anglican community. That it was very important to get them out into the houses of worship of our Abrahamic faith partners.
Can you tell me the fit of a chair of Islamic Studies? Because in the United States and Canada now, there seems to be a huge demand for this, and that we're seeing, at least from our research, that most of these classes are being filled to capacity, and not only being filled, but being filled by non-Muslims. Can you tell us the fit between Huron College University at this particular time for this type of a program and the significance of it being a chair, just not some courses, which is what's happened in some other schools?
That's a great question. I think that right now within academia, it's important to start to build more focused and clustered studies in particular areas. And there's been increasing interest, I've noticed, around the country in comparative religions, and particularly Islam and culture. So for us, it made sense. We've established here at Huron a Center for Abrahamic Religions. We've offered courses in Jewish studies for quite a long time, and so to have a chair in Islamic studies, which is the next natural progression in a long series of decades of involvement.
Well, and I think that's an important point that you make in trying to use education to break down barriers. Because as I understand it, and I want to talk to you, Ingrid, about this, but this isn't a political science course, this is a religious studies course. And maybe we could let our viewers know a little bit about your background, Dr. Mattson, and how you came to London, and what you're looking forward to with respect to this huge endeavor with a 7-figure chair for Islamic Studies.
Well, I've been teaching Islamic Studies for 12 years now at Hartford Seminary in Hartford, Connecticut. I teach in an interfaith environment at a graduate theological seminary. And in that capacity, my students have been Muslims and Christians. primarily who work in theological education and religious leadership. It's been a wonderful opportunity to explore, in particular, what I've been interested in is the future of religious leadership in a changing society. I am Canadian. Originally, I'm from Kitchener, Ontario. I've lived in the United States now 23 years. First studying in Chicago at the University of Chicago, where I got my PhD, and then working in theological education. So I'm very interested in coming back and trying to really help shape the Canadian context. I'm very grateful to my upbringing, you know, what I gained in Canada growing up here, my education, a very good education, both elementary and secondary, and my university education at the University of Waterloo. So I really feel called to come back and serve Canadian society through this academic position.
When you talk about responsible leadership, I mean, we can use that not only in religion but in non-religion, and the challenges. You know, you have the benefit not only being born in Canada but working for, you know, a quarter of a century and living in the United States. What challenges do you see with the dichotomy? And I'm thinking, you know, in the United States, where they take so much pride in being, quote, an American melting pot, where we take all the cultures and religions and we kind of melt them all down in this great melting pot to give the common denominator, versus in Canada, where we talk about not a melting pot, but sort of a Canadian mosaic, where we have all these pieces that on their own aren't complete, but when we put them all together in their individuality, we create this beautiful masterpiece called our Canadian mosaic. What sort of challenges do you see in you know, heading up an historic and significant chair of Islamic Studies at Huron College University?
Well, I think what's important is that people feel free to express themselves as whole people. The reality is that none of us is one-dimensional. And whether that is our national identity or our religious identity, there's diversity even within those identities. And we have many other aspects of ourselves as human beings, as creative people, as family people. So when we're looking at a religious identity, do we understand that that is not a narrow, you know, it's not like joining the Boy Scouts where we all have to dress the same way and you know, do everything the same way. But we find within our own religious expression and values the ability to embrace diversity within our own community. If we can't do that, then we probably won't be able to embrace the diversity of society. We need to be able to develop a facility within ourselves to make those kind of connections and not feel that somehow we are being disloyal to other communities when we embrace what's good in the other. And that gets back to not only education but also kind of spiritual formation, because there is at the bottom of it the recognition that it is God who made us different. It is God who created these different kinds of communities and identities and desires and longings and yearnings for expression and connection in human beings. And so if we understand that and we develop that gratitude within ourselves to God for creating this diversity and challenging us by that, I think then we'll be comfortable in continuing to grow in these new environments.
Why London? What was it about this chair that would cause you to want to pick up and leave with all these wonderful opportunities in trailblazing that you are now apparently going to be a trailblazer in Canada, in London, Ontario?
Well, I'll tell you, I was very happy, and I am very happy doing what I've been doing in the United States and in Connecticut. When I got the call from some members of the community asking me to consider this position, I felt that there was a certain level of depth in the explanation of what was wanted for this chair. I heard from some of the community members about the struggle that they had gone through bringing together the resources for this. And it intrigued me at the beginning, and I felt compelled to know more about it. And then, so I decided to come and investigate. And when I came here and I found out the whole story, I found out that the members of diverse communities in London and Windsor were able to come together for the benefit of, of the public good, really the public interest, to gather resources, and an enormous amount of resources for this chair. And then hearing what Huron had done in terms of standing for, with great integrity to the educational mission and the formation mission of the school in the face of some opposition to the founding of this chair. What impressed me most was this moral courage on the part of the leadership.
I wanted to ask you, Dr. Mattson, about the reception that you received. I know you attended a dinner in your honor to introduce you to members of the community, both in and outside the community. What kind of a reception did you get, and how did you feel about it after having had an opportunity to meet the community?
Well, I'm very touched by the warm welcome I've received by the community. But beyond that, I feel really very humbled to having been offered this position. I know it's a great trust. So many people have given a tremendous amount. They're out of the generosity of their heart, but also out of a hope for something better. And I take that seriously. I believe that I have a deep responsibility to engage with the community in terms of consultation. Of course, this is an academic position, and my first responsibility is to the students in the academic institution. But these students are part of the broader community, and the community is engaged with the school. And so I want to hear what their experiences are, because that needs to be reflected in the classroom as well. I want to see what the experience has been for people here, and how we can bring some of our research and knowledge to benefit the community, because I think there are many ways, and I think there are many, in particular, I think there are many resources from the classical Islamic tradition, whether spiritual resources, teachings, ethics, that can be of benefit to today's world. We're not left without any guidance. There are some very solid principles that can help us engage in a diverse and pluralistic world.
Well, Stephen, I want to thank you on behalf of the London community, both Muslim and non-Muslim, for having the intestinal fortitude as principal of Huron College University for this wonderful, historic, and very, very significant chair of Islamic Studies. And Dr. Mattson, all I want to say to you is thank you for coming, and welcome to your new home.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.